Hey guys, here's a video on how to put window quotes in your text. Window quotes are really good for drawing the eye, breaking up the text a little bit. If you have too much space, they can help fill it a little bit. So looking at this page, it looks like this text is a little bit short. I could enlarge this person, but I'm going to put a window quote in instead. I think right about here looks like a good place to break up the text. So I'm going to go over to CC Libraries on the right. Scroll down to other elements and drag out the window quote. Noticing that this line on top is black. Were it a color page, I would probably want to pick one with a red bar on top. And I'm going to want to place it right about there. Now, you notice right now it's overlapping with the text. That's not really a good look. So I'm just going to take the column that it's in and make it a lot shorter so that it ends right above the window quote. Make a copy of this column. Put it under it, extend it so it's the right height, delete all the text in that column, then go back over here and link this column with the others. You can see more about in our linking text video, but essentially I'm just going to click this little blue arrow right above the right bottom corner, and then click inside my blank text box, and they're all linked. So you can see that sentence is just flowing right into this new text box. Now you can see this column is not lined up with that top column, so I'm just going to check the X value of that top column is 12p 4.2, which actually I know is not right. It should be 12p 6, which I know, sorry, I meant 12p 6, not whatever I accidentally typed instead. And just because that was off, I want to check the other ones, 25, 37p 6, and 50. Yeah, so anyways, you can see more about that in those numbers, either in the InDesign manifesto or in our video about aligning columns that get accidentally screwed up. But anyways, now that that's fixed at 12p6, I can fix this bottom column. It's at 12, that's not what I want. I want it at 12p6. And with window quote placement, one common mistake we see is people who put window quotes in the middle of the columns. That's not what we want. This leftmost edge here should be aligned with the leftmost edge of the column, meaning that this too should be at 12p6. You'll see that this line and the text do not extend all the way across the column. That's correct. Having that white space there does help draw the eye a little more. And so that was a deliberate design choice we made. Now you notice there are two parts to this window quote. There's this bold text and then there's the name. So if the quote is a quote from a source in the story, this name is the source's name. If the quote is just from the text of the story, as in the quote is something that the writer wrote, then I just won't put a name there. I'll delete that. So once I've decided that I want a window quote, I'll text the writer or Slack them and say, hey, I'm going to put a window quote in your story. I was thinking about a sentence. That's how long they really are generally all. And you know, it's in about the first third of the story, so if you could pick a quote from around there, that would be ideal, because we don't really want to spoil, quote unquote, the story by putting like the last sentence all the way over here. And anyways, I think on the actual page, the quote we picked was something like, alleged perpetrators generally cease to exist after they are in prison. This coming and going dehumanizes criminals. Something like that. And so I'm just going to highlight this and then paste without formatting. Oops, sorry, I did that wrong. Give me 1 second. I highlighted the enter line is what I did wrong, and this line here has really little spacing so that there's kind of that exact right amount of space between the quote and the name. But anyways, if you highlight that line and then paste in it, sometimes it looks a little weird, so you just want to be sure you're not highlighting that blank line at the very end. And so now you can see that it pasted much better. This was a quote that was just from the text of the story, so I don't need that name at the end. Were I to put that name at the end, I would want to be sure that I was spelling it correctly and that it was in all caps. And I think this looks a little bit cramped, so I'm going to move this down, make this column a little shorter, move that down a little bit, and then just move it back over to 12p6. And I think that looks pretty good. So that's your really, really simple tutorial on how to do a window quote. The one other thing I wanted to talk about was right aligning a window quote. So a right aligned window quote is not in CC Libraries. You have to make it manually because we generally encourage left aligned window quotes. But this is what it looks like. Essentially, I would right align this text. And then within the group, I would highlight both of these items. So that means I'm clicking within the group, not just clicking on the grouped element of those two items, or I would ungroup them first and then click on that line in the text box. And I would go over to properties and I would hit this align thing where they are aligning right edges. And then I would just highlight the column too and align the right edges there. So it just shifts on over, and you can see now the text is aligned against the right edge of its text box, and that is aligned with the right edge of the column. In a page like this, I would not put a right aligned window quote there, but if, for instance, I had one window quote like here and one up here, so they're kind of complementing each other on opposite sides of the page, in that case, I might want one to be right aligned and one to be left aligned so that they're really balancing each other out, so that white space is balancing itself out, because that can look a lot better. But unless you're going to have two on a page, or unless there's some reason you really think, maybe because of how it is right under a photo or next to art, you think there's some really compelling reason it should be right aligned, I generally think you should just be sticking with the default from CC Libraries of left alignment, again, unless you're having two on a page. Oh, and again, if you're doing a color page, just be sure that this bar is going to be in Silverchips red, unless you think there's a compelling design reason for it to be in another color, in which case you can talk to me or another design editor. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. Just be sure that, this column is staying aligned at the top and this one is staying aligned at the bottom. But that's about it. Thank you guys so much.